daughter said that I was a loser, compared to her in-laws, so I cut her off and gave the inheritance to my son. Now she is angry and asks me to come back, and I said, I never thought I'd see the day when my own daughter would call me a loser. I mean, I knew Allison had a sharp tongue sometimes, but this felt different. It wasn't just an offhand insult. It was like a statement she'd rehearsed. That word, loser, has been ringing in my head for months now. It started about a year ago, not long after Allison married Mike. He's a decent guy, I suppose, but his parents, well, they live in a different world. They bought the newlyweds a brand new car as a wedding present. A Tesla. Then, a few months later, they gave them the down payment on a condo in the city. I remember the day she told me. She called me, and at first she sounded excited. But soon her tone changed. Why didn't you do something like this for me, Dad? She asked. I didn't know how to answer. I'd raised her and her brother Tom on my own after their mother died when they were young. I worked double shifts for years to make sure they had a roof over their heads and food on the table. Fancy cars and apartments weren't in the cards for us. I told her that, but it wasn't what she wanted to hear. She started listing all the things Mike's parents had done for them, saying they set the standard for what good parents should do. That stung. But it got worse. Over the next few months, she brought it up again and again. She'd call or visit, and somehow the conversation always came back to how I hadn't given her enough. You didn't even help me pay for my wedding dress, she would remind me. You didn't offer to help with the honeymoon. I tried to let it go, thinking maybe she was just blowing off steam. But the comments grew more pointed. She started comparing me to her in-laws. They're just so generous, Dad. I don't know why you can't be like them. One day she said outright, You've never been able to give me anything I really wanted. Honestly, sometimes I think you're just a loser. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I didn't even react. What could I say? What she didn't know and what I had been wrestling with for weeks was that I had recently started thinking about my will. I have high blood pressure, and the doctor has warned me to take it seriously. I'm not a rich man, but I have some savings, the house, and a decent life insurance policy. Enough for it to matter. I'd been trying to decide how to split everything between her and Tom. But after this conversation, I began to wonder if Allison even deserved it. She clearly didn't think much of me. Meanwhile, Tom had always been the steady one. He never asked for much and always helped me out when I needed it. It made me think hard about who would appreciate what I had to give. Little did I know that decision would send Allison into a rage I never saw coming. A few weeks after the explosion, I was sitting in my living room going through the paperwork for my will. It wasn't a huge fortune, but it was everything I'd worked for. The house alone could be a nice boost for one of my kids. Allison had been on my mind, and not in a good way. The things she'd said lately about me, about what I owed her, were wearing me down. But it was Tom who called that night. Hey, Dad, are you okay? He asked. I told him I was fine, but he could always read between the lines. You sound stressed. Is it Allison again? I hesitated. I didn't like to burden him with family drama, but he already knew most of it. She just won't let up, I admitted. She's comparing me to Mike's parents again. You'd think I'd get used to it, but this time she called me a loser. Tom didn't respond right away. Then he finally said, That's low. You don't deserve that. That was Tom in a nutshell, calm, steady, and always ready to defend me. He never asked for anything, but he was always there when I needed him. When my car broke down last year, it was Tom who took a day off work to help me buy a new one. He didn't even complain when I chose a used Corolla instead of something flashier. Allison, on the other hand, had barely visited since her wedding. And when she did, it felt more like an obligation than anything else. That night, I made a decision. I decided to give Tom the bulk of my estate. The house, the savings, everything. Allison would get a small amount. It felt fair to give her something, but the majority would go to the child who had always supported me, not the one who made me feel like I was never enough. I finished the paperwork the next day. Part of me felt guilty, but a bigger part felt relieved. I figured I wouldn't say anything until it was time. I didn't want to start a fight. But Tom, God bless him, couldn't keep it to himself. A few days later I got a call from Allison. I could tell right away that something was wrong. Her voice was tight, like she was trying to hold back anger. Tom told me about your will, she said. Is it true? Are you giving him the house? I wasn't going to lie. Yes, it's true. There was a long silence on the other end. Then she exploded. How could you do this? I'm your daughter. I've always been there for you. I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. Always been there for me. Is that what you really think? You know what I mean, she snapped. I'm your daughter. It's only right that I get more than Tom. He's your son, Dad. I'm your best child. You should reward me for everything I've done for you. I sat there stunned. Reward her? For what, exactly? This conversation was about to take a turn neither of us would forget. I didn't even know where to begin. Reward her? For what? It felt like the entire history of our relationship was playing out in my head, and I struggled to find a single thing she'd done that met her sense of entitlement. Allison, I said carefully, you say you've always been there for me. Can you give me one example? Just one? She didn't miss a beat. I call you all the time, don't I? I check up on you. I make sure you're okay. I almost dropped the phone. You call me to tell me what I'm doing wrong or to complain about what I didn't give you. That's not checking up on me. She ignored me. And who invited you to our engagement dinner? I did. Mike didn't even think about it, but I made sure you were there. That's loyalty, Dad. That's me being a good daughter. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You invited me to your engagement dinner, and you think that counts as loyalty? Her tone changed, sharper now. You're twisting my words. The point is, I've done more for you than you know. And let's not pretend that Tom deserves more than I do. What has he ever done? He's just your golden boy who never had to fight because you gave him everything. Now I was angry. I took a deep breath and tried to keep my voice calm. Tom never asked for anything. Not even once. And he's always helped me when I needed it, no complaints, no strings attached. Can you honestly say the same? She scoffed. That's because you always favored him. He didn't have to ask because you handed it to him on a silver platter. You never cared for me in the same way. That was it. I couldn't hold back anymore. Do you hear yourself, Allison? You're twisting reality to fit your narrative. I gave you as much as I could. You went to college debt-free because I worked double shifts for years to make it happen. You got braces when you needed them. You went on field trips, had new clothes every year, and even had a car in high school. It wasn't a Tesla, but it was what I could afford. And now you're sitting here rewriting history because Mike's parents have more money to throw around than I ever could? For a moment, I thought she might actually back down. But instead, she doubled down. None of that matters. What matters is what you're doing right now. And right now you're cutting me out of what's rightfully mine. I couldn't believe the nerve. Rightfully yours? I repeated. This is my money, Allison. It's not yours. It was never yours. I get to decide what to do with it, and frankly, you've made it pretty easy for me. There was silence again, but it wasn't the kind that meant she was thinking. I could almost hear her anger boiling over. You're being unbelievable, she finally said. You're punishing me for having higher standards than Tom. Is that it? You hate that I want more for myself? I sighed. No, Allison. I hate that you think I owe you more just because someone else gave you more. You've made it clear what you think of me, and I'm just returning the favor. That last line seemed to hit her hard. For the first time, she didn't have a quick comeback. I thought maybe that was the end of it, but then she said something I hadn't expected. You're going to regret this, Dad. You'll see. And with that, she hung up. A few weeks went by without a word from Allison. I figured she needed time to cool off, and frankly, I wasn't in any hurry to reopen that wound. Then, out of the blue, she showed up at my house one night, holding a stack of papers and looking determined. Can we talk? she asked. She wasted no time. Sitting at the kitchen table, she laid out her case like a lawyer in a courtroom. I've been thinking, Dad. This isn't fair. I'm the one who's married, the one who's starting a family. Don't you want your inheritance to help your future grandchildren? Tom doesn't need the house the way I do. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You think Tom's future doesn't matter because he's not married? I asked. She waved it off. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you need to think about who this is really going to help the most. It wasn't just entitlement, it was calculated. Every point she made was designed to justify why she deserved more. I'm not punishing you, Allison, I said firmly when she finished. But I'm not rewarding behavior that's all about taking either. Her face hardened and she stood up, gathering her papers. You'll regret this, she said as she walked out. I thought that might be the end of it. I was wrong. A week later, I received a phone call from Mike, Allison's husband. He never called me directly, so I knew something was up. Hey, Mr. Carter, he started awkwardly. Listen, I wanted to talk to you about this whole inheritance thing. Allison's really upset. I sighed. Mike, that's not something I want to discuss with you. It's between me and my kids. I understand that, he said quickly. But you have to understand where she's coming from. We're under a lot of financial pressure right now. She feels like you're overlooking everything she's done to be a good daughter. Mike, I interrupted. I'm not going to argue with you about this. Allison knows why I made the decision I did. He didn't push, but it was clear he wasn't happy. Well, I just hope you reconsider. For the sake of the family. I hung up, more irritated than anything else. But that wasn't the end of it. A few days later, I started getting texts from extended family members. Why are you cutting Allison out? One cousin asked. Another said, I hear you're giving everything to Tom. That doesn't seem fair. It didn't take long to figure out that Allison had been making the rounds, telling everyone her version of events. She made it sound like I was playing favorites, like I didn't care about her or her future. I ignored it at first, but then I got a call from my sister, Diane. What's going on with you and Allison? She asked. She says you're leaving her with nothing. Of course she says that, I replied. But she's not telling you the whole story. Diane listened as I explained, but I could tell she was uncomfortable. Look, she finally said. I'm not saying she's right, but maybe you should try to make things right. She's your daughter, after all. This was exactly what Allison wanted, pressure from the family to make me back down. But if anything, it only made me more determined to stick with my decision. The way I saw it, Allison wasn't just upset. She was trying to manipulate me. And that only confirmed that I'd made the right decision. The family drama was exhausting, but I refused to let Allison guilt me into changing my mind. Still, it felt like the walls were closing in, and I knew she wasn't finished. One Saturday afternoon, Tom came over to help me with some yard work. We were trimming the hedges when he casually mentioned something that stopped me in my tracks. Allison talked to a lawyer, he said. I turned to him, stunned. A lawyer? For what? He shrugged, obviously uncomfortable. She said something about contesting the will. I don't know how serious she is, but I thought you should know. I couldn't believe it. Contesting the will? I wasn't even dead yet, and she was already planning to fight over my estate. That night, I sat down with a cup of coffee and tried to take it all in. Part of me wanted to call her and demand an explanation, but I knew that would only escalate the situation. Instead, I called my lawyer the next morning to make sure everything was airtight. A couple of days later, Allison called. This time there was no pretense of civility. Tom told you, didn't he? She said as soon as I picked up. Told me what? I asked, though I knew exactly what she meant. Don't play dumb, Dad. He told you I'm considering my options. I took a long breath. Allison, are you trying to fight me over money that isn't even yours yet? Do you hear how ridiculous that sounds? I'm doing what I have to do, she snapped. If you want to treat me like I don't matter, fine. But I'm not going to sit back and let you give everything to Tom just because you like him better. This isn't about liking someone better, I said. It's about respect. And you've shown me time and time again that you don't respect me or anything I've done for you. She scoffed. You think this is about respect? This is about fairness. You're punishing me for having expectations, for wanting more for myself. That's not fair, Dad. Fair? I said, unable to keep the frustration out of my voice. Fair would have been for you to treat me like your father, not like a bank you can cash in whenever it suits you. You made that choice, Allison. Not me. She didn't say much after that, but I could feel her anger through the phone. When she hung up, I realized something important. This wasn't just about money for Allison. It was about control. And I wasn't going to let her win. For a while, things were quiet. I thought maybe Allison had finally let it go, but deep down I knew better. She wasn't one to back down easily, especially when she thought she'd been wrong. It wasn't long before I was in for another surprise. One night, as I was going through the mail, I found a letter from Allison. It wasn't handwritten or heartfelt, it was from her lawyer. She was formally contesting the will, claiming that I was making decisions under undue influence from Tom. I couldn't believe it. Undue influence? Tom had never pressured me about anything. He didn't even know I was revising the will until I told him. But Allison painted a different picture. I immediately called my attorney. He assured me that the will was solid and that her claim had no merit, but that wasn't the point. The fact that she'd gone this far, dragging Tom and me through legal threats, was more than I could bear. Tom came over the next day, visibly upset. She sent me a letter too, he said, holding it up. She's accusing me of manipulating you. Can you believe that? I shook my head. I don't even recognize her anymore. That's not the Allison I raised. Tom sat down, clearly struggling with his own emotions. You know, Dad, I think she's just scared. Scared of being left out, of not being enough. That's what this is really about. Maybe, I admitted. But that doesn't excuse what she's doing. She's trying to hurt you, me, everyone, just to get her way. Tom nodded, but didn't say much more. He didn't need to. The damage had already been done, and we both knew it. Later that week, Allison called again, her tone more subdued this time. Look, Dad, she said. I'm sorry it had to come to this, but you're leaving me no choice. I've been trying to talk to you, and you're not listening. I hear you loud and clear, Allison, I said. You are willing to destroy this family for money. That's all I need to know. Her voice cracked, just a little. That's not fair, Dad. I just want what's right. I almost felt sorry for her at that moment, but I couldn't be swayed. What's right, I said, is to make decisions based on how people treat each other. You may not like it, but I stand by what I've done. After that, she didn't call for a while. But I knew the battle was far from over. Weeks went by, and though I didn't hear from Allison, the tension lingered like a storm cloud. Tom checked in regularly, mostly to make sure I wasn't letting the stress get to me. My blood pressure was bad enough without all this drama. Then one night I got a text from Diane, my sister. Allison called me. She's really upset. Says she's planning something big. You need to talk to her. I didn't respond. What was there to say? I wasn't going to beg my daughter to stop tearing the family apart over money. But the next day I found out what Diane was talking about. Tom showed up at my house, his face set in anger. Dad, did you see this? He asked, handing me his phone. It was a screenshot of a post Allison had made on social media. In it, she accused me of abandoning her as a child and playing favorites with Tom. She painted herself as the victim, claiming that I deliberately cut her out of my life and well because I couldn't handle her success and independence. The comments were worse. People we knew, friends, extended family, weighed in. Some defended me, but others sided with Allison. This is horrible. One person wrote, "Parents are supposed to treat their children equally." Another said, "I can't believe your dad would do this to you. Stay strong." My chest tightened as I read it all. She was dragging my name through the mud, turning our private family issues into a public spectacle. I can't believe she'd go this far, Tom said, pacing the living room. This isn't just about money anymore. She's trying to destroy your reputation. I sat down and stared at the floor. I don't even know who she is anymore, Tom. How did we get here? He didn't have an answer, and neither did I. That night I called Diane. What exactly did Allison tell you? I asked. Diane hesitated. She said she feels that you've always favored Tom, that you've never appreciated her. She thinks this is her chance to stand up for herself. Stand up for herself? I said, almost laughing. By slandering me online? She's hurt, Carter, Diane said quietly. But I think she's in over her head. You need to talk to her before it gets worse. I thanked Diane for the advice, but I knew I wasn't going to take it. Allison had crossed a line that I couldn't ignore. I decided then and there to go over everything in detail with my lawyer. I wasn't just protecting Tom anymore, I was protecting myself. Allison thought she was backed into a corner. She had no idea that I was already 10 steps ahead of her. A few days after the social media fiasco, Allison called. I debated not answering, but I picked up out of curiosity. Her voice was sharp, but there was a hint of desperation underneath. Dad, you made your point. But this has gone too far. You need to fix this. I remained calm. Fix what, Allison? You're the one who brought this out into the open. You're ruining our relationship. She shot back. Do you really want it to end like this? Do you want people to think you're a terrible father? It hit a nerve, but I didn't let her hear it. Allison, you made your decision. You've spent months tearing me down, accusing Tom, and spreading lies. Now you have to deal with the consequences. She was silent for a moment. Then, in a softer voice, she said, I am still your daughter. Doesn't that mean anything to you? I took a deep breath. It does, Allison. It always has. But respect and trust go both ways. And you've broken both. Before she could respond, I added, I'm done, Allison. The will is final, and so is my decision. If you want a relationship with me, you're going to have to show that it's about more than money. Until then, there's nothing more to say. I hung up, feeling a strange mixture of relief and sadness. I'd always hoped things would end differently, but this was the path she'd chosen. And for once, I wasn't going to let her dictate the terms.